All right, we're going to talk about BMR. Took one trade on this. Short on the 9:43 candle. Go over why. I mean, this was really strong. I was really mad about missing the long in the pre-market. This had you can't see this because it's so small, but we'll go over the Thinkorswim chart. It had a nice double top with a walk down, a very controlled walk down, um, which are both bullish, right? So low floats are very counterintuitive. A lot of technical analysis books might tell you that double tops are bearish and high day clearouts are bearish, and a stock that's just lower highs and lower lows is bearish. But in low floats, it's often very controlled, very deliberate, and yeah, it's just one of those. I saw it, I called it out in the Discord. I'm like, the double top and the walk down. Um, but I missed the long in the 360s, and I didn't want to long the rotation that was over here. But I literally can't see it because the chart is so distorted by how much range is traded. Um, but I mean, there was no short in the pre-market. It was trading insane volume. I think at market open, it traded like it was already the pre-market volume was like 30 million. It was insane. Um, and then so I knew market open was going to be high volume. Um, Got a big push out of the gate, 3 million shares per minute at $7, really big. But I was like, well, some plays like Top last week and some of these big gapping names were fading in the morning. So I was like, well, let me just, have a short bias on this. And pretty much the trade I took was really simple. There was a seller at 7.5 right here holding the stock down. Usually, if there's a lot of times if there's hidden sellers at half dollar, whole dollar levels, those become targets for later. We saw this with Top. Top in the pre-market had a 7.5 being held down, and then when Top rotated and market open, it swiped 7.5 and pulled. And I thought this was going to do the same thing, honestly. So, I wanted to make sure that it rotated back up to 7.5. It swiped that level, and that on the book, we got our classic book map signal where, on some type of aggressive move towards the key level, so 7.5 in this case, we want no bid follow up. We want the ask to get filled, and we want the buying to stall and for them to pull the stock, right? So that's what we got. I had a really good average um, in the 750s. They pulled it. Uh, and then at that point, you don't know, every time you're in a long trap candle like that, you have no idea if it's going to do something like HKIT, where I shorted it. It gave a bounce that looks strong, and then it rolled over 50% and faded. Or you don't know if it's going to squeeze, right? So, um, plays like Holo gave a short, signal that squeezed later, and so did this. So the book actually shows you a lot. When it was not fading after this candle right here and it was stalling, they started stacking some bids. And then right before they initiated it, the bids were actually kind of thin. And then they threw up, we'll see that they threw up a bunch of bids right here before they initiated. And once I knew that was happening, and this 7.75 high started getting taken out, I just got out of my trade. And then I'll just go over, I kind of wanted to talk about this because I kind of want to talk about um, kind of the kind of bullish structure, right? Like what constitutes bullish structure in the pre-market, at market open, middle of the day. How do you treat these different time frames, right? So when I got on, the stock was, my setup stock was already over here, right? Stock was over here, and I'm like, all right, well, it's going through all the tickers for the day, and I said in the Discord, I was like, this is the only stock being held up. You could see the walk down, you could see, um, you know, this controlled walk down. So hide a clear out with a controlled walk down. These are in low floats. These are bullish. These are bullish factors. Now it doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna squeeze high day, but in this case, I thought it would because market conditions are really important. And market conditions last week after Holo ran, we were getting a lot of great pre-market longs, right? Now, for a pre-market long, that doesn't mean every low float in the pre-market's going to go up, um, or give a pullback with a rotation. But that does mean if a play with good volume and a good structure like this, potential double top, high day clear out short trap, walk down, under VWAP. You could see the selling, right? Um, these are the plays and low floats that have a big chance for rotating and squeezing. I was kicking myself for missing this, man. Um, I think I just got on a little too late, and I just wasn't. Uh, this is one of those plays where is it's the wrong chart. Um, where if I was watching it throughout the entire pre-market, maybe I would have been more in tuned with the price action. But you could actually see right here in the pre-market, here's the walk down, and you always want to see, bids get tested, right? What bids are holding, what level they're being held at. And here the bids look kind of like okay, they're kind of thin, but look at this. Right before they start to initiate this, you can see 3.5s holding, and not only 3.5s, but you can see increasing larger size bids come into this play, and you can see so when it started rotating, I told the disc, I was like, man, I'm so mad for missing this. I was like, why wasn't I, because a lot of times in low floats, it's dangerous to chase up here when there's no follow-up bids. Right? Now, just because there's no follow-up bids doesn't mean it can't keep going higher, but if you missed a better long where the bids were, and you want like a secondary long entry, then you're going to want new bidders to show up. And this was, that's why you get a big push. It's very dangerous to longness on low floats just because with no bid support, you never know when they're going to pull it. But it starts getting walked down again. We could see the lower highs. They throw up a bid, and once this follow-up bid came in, I should have just chased. I felt um, this is kind of like your classic secondary, like legit flag where a lot of the in low floats again, a lot of the best longs come after they swipe support, right? So this is the bottom of the support right here. They swipe it, throw up a bid, and then rotate it with follow-up bids, right? So it's very, very, very strong. So this just went straight up. Had a so that's my daughter. and and then I mean the book is pretty outside of half dollar whole dollar. The book is just empty on this, and in a market where pre-market longs are working really well, it just squeezed straight up with tons of volume. So that was really a huge miss, right? And that's this. Here are the bids coming in right here, and here's that follow up. Here's a little mini support swipe with the follow-up bidder right there, right? Notice the big bids. If you wait for the bullish structure, which in low floats is like fake weakness, and you wait enough time for the stock to build liquidity, right? Shake out some longs who are chasing up here, right? Maybe swipe a level, swipes the support levels, and wait for the reclaim and some bids to start stacking, right? Those tend to be the best longs. And then we start getting big. I told Discord right away. Right when it was in the high fours here, I'm like, there is a big consist. This is so bullish, guys. This is what was happening in Holo and a bunch of other names. Like you see this, especially in the pre-market, when you see stocks just grinding new highs on the 1 minute chart, new highs with big, consistent or increasing volume. It's a sign of accumulation. It's a sign that somebody is just buying a ton of shares, and that's why like I wasn't looking to short any of this. I mean, it's all bullish stuff, like straight up the 1 minute 9, no reason to short. Nice little walk down 1 minute 20. The 1 minute 20, especially when it dumps straight down like this. The 1 minute 20 is the strongest when huge dumps when a stock goes parabolic and there's like an instant dump to it, right? We saw this over here. We call this out right away in my Discord. Here's like some crazy upholty, move from 6 to 17. Fat dump candle. Fat dump candles after parabolic invite shorts to chase. Shorts chase so hard on these. They chase so hard. And what they don't realize is that it just creates this empty air pocket of space to rotate back into. And the 1 minute 20, just like in the pre market, is one of the most common MAs for these rapid dump moves. This move from here to here, this is like a 20% dump. Like in 5 minutes. And this ends up, look at this, ends up being the low of a squeeze up to $35, right? Tells you a lot about how stocks move, right? But I was saying in my Discord, I'm like, usually 1 minute 20, you kind of want it to go quickly. But I was like, I was saying like I don't want to short in the 15s down here because high days at 16.9. High days so far up. I don't want to short at 15 if high day is 10, 15, 20% above, my average, right? Especially if it's more than 10%. So I was just like, and then they were just doing your classic low flow tricks, man. They do these mini knives, and you could see it on the book. They do a knife, throw up some bids, knife, throw up some bids. You could see them do the same trick, where it's just like these mini shakeouts and these mini short chases, um, and I just wasn't interested in any of this price action. The only bearish factor, which I did call out, was there was higher lows. There's always a chance there's like a bid prop and a rug pull, but the book map was not, in the volume was not supporting that thesis at all. Like literally, and I was very afraid of the dump. This quick dump is so strong. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, it just is, there's nothing else to say. I mean, here's another walk. Another walk down to the 1 minute 20. Look at this. No liquidity move, just lower highs for 10 minutes in a rip. Like, this is just Momo. And this is why a lot of times on these types of plays, the best short obviously was on. So, we got a rapid, like 40% dump move right here. That creates a lot of empty space. Now the thing is, the stock is getting pretty extended, and by pretty extended, I mean it's up about 1,200%. Stocks only go up so much, type thing. But when I see a big down move like this, it does create a lot of empty space. But the only problem with this short is it is kind of hard to know how high. You don't know if they're going to go for 30s. Well, you don't know if they're just going to rotate it straight to new highs, which is always a possibility. Not that I'm really expecting that, but in terms of judging what a good entry is. 30 would have been cool. There's some lower highs over here at 30. 30 is going to be a nice psychological level. Um, but, unless I saw something that was really clear to me, maybe some aggressive move up to 30 with no bid support and a pull, like maybe I would have been interested, but I just kind of didn't have a read on the grind, and, that just ends up being the beginning of the fade. But a big thing I want to, I'll show the book stuff on this. Well, like, I already showed the pre-market. Let's go to market open, right? Let's go to this move, right? So here's your painted 7.5 level. Here's the candle I shorted, and here's the flag. TPSD on the day it went, not the big day, but the day like a week later when it's the backside squeezed to $9, had a very similar structure to this back in October. And yeah, we'll just go over really fast. So here's, I made a video about a massive soak into a seller. So this is, here's your knife, right? Swipes the bottom of support. Big reclaim into a fat seller at 7.5 here. Now, what I kind of learned, I used to take these indiscriminately, but what I learned is it's this pattern, this type of like support swipe into seller. It's usually best if at least some of these lower highs get taken out, right? So it's like, I would love for 7.5s, all the way, because there was a big ask at 8, like as close to 8 as it could get. I was at least looking for 7.6s, 7.8s, like it would have been great. Yeah, depending on how this move went, you know, I would have just tried making the best read that I could. But the fact that it stalled at 7.5, the problem with that, so you can see it here on this soak, here's the 1 minute 20 soak into a 7.5 seller, is that it has this like lower high structure, right? And it's very controlled, right? Usually the best shorts are like this, right? Where key levels that were painted earlier get broken. So when I see 7.5 here not get taken out, I told my Discord, I was like, I didn't take that because I wanted that level to get broken. So when that level did get broken, then I took it, right? So you can see that here. Here's a deeper support swipe, aggressive initiation. You could see them filling all these asks here, right? right at the painted level, and it took out 7.6, that level I was talking about earlier, and it had no bid follow up. And in the moment it started showing even a little bit of weakness, I shorted it, right? And at this point, you never know what's going to happen. So I told them, after I told my Discord after this knife, I'm like, oh man, there's bids following this up. That doesn't always mean high day is going to get squeezed, but it's not ideal. I'll tell you that. I'd rather have these bids not be there. Um, but at the time, I was just risking these asks up here. I was like, okay, there's some at 7.7, 7.8, so I'll put my risk, and that's also where this lower high is. I'll put my risk right up here. And then they started selling at 7.5 again, 7.5, 7.5. And I'm like, you know what? Like the fact that they're holding 7.5 again now turns potentially bullish because if it starts to squeeze that 7.5, then all of these lower highs um, will will get squeezed, right? Will get squeezed, and not to mention high days right there, and I can see how empty the book is. So I started, I got executed um, below 8 here, but you could see right here, like the ask are shoving this down, and it looks actually not that bad. I'm like, oh, maybe the ask are just gonna shove the stock down, and then the big, big, big bidders come in and they do a little, fake long initiation, bounce off the bidder, real long initiation, and then once this started rotating, I was like, this is literally the worst thing you want to see. This is ultra bullish. But it's hard to like completely cover your short and flip long in the moment. Um, usually you just the best you can really do because is cover your position. The best thing you can do is keep your short bias because otherwise in future trades you're going to be constantly flipping on like on random signals, and it's going to mess up your consistency. So a lot of times it is best just to pick a bias, whether it's long bias or short bias, and just play that trade. And if you get stopped out, then you get stopped out, right? But I always say up here in my videos, like I never try to short out of uphalts. I am not a fan of shorting out of up like in the vast, 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 vast majority, like 99.9% of situations. I do not like to do the guess the uphalt that will dump the stock. Every short seller thinks like they think that if they don't perfectly time the high a day candle, they're gonna miss. Like they think that the stock's gonna downhaul and gap down 70, 80%. That's what they think is gonna happen. It's absolutely not gonna happen. It's exactly like that. Absolutely does not happen. Um, the vast majority of the time, it's ridiculous. And yeah, I mean, no reason to short any of this stuff, man. Just so here's that 1 minute 20 dump. Um, here's 16.8s to 12.2s, massive dump into the 1 minute 20. It bounces because it's there's all this empty space, and you can see bids, you can see bids, you can see bids, you can see, here's all these little long shakeout moves, right? Like here's 15 getting swiped, no bid follow up, dump. Now you're gonna, you're like, well, isn't that your short signal? It's like the problem is it's too far away from high. It's context. The context is important, right? Hey, first of all, crazy high volume. Second of all, massive down only dump to the 1 minute 20. That's bullish. And then this is just too far away from high day with too much empty space above you. I mean, it's just add the a lot of it is adding the factors and understanding that you're leaving yourself open to huge risk, especially if you're shorting these crazy parabolic stocks where high day is super far away, right? But yeah, and then they had another mini initiation on like a lot of these knives are not just the bait short sellers, but they're the shakeout longs. They're shaking out longs that are chasing, right? And then yeah, this is your classic long shakeout, bounce, throw the. This was actually an A plus long right here. It's actually an A plus long right here. The shakeout into the bid follow up right below high a day. This was actually insane. And then yeah, more 1 minute 20 walk down, more road, and then it just went parabolic. I mean, there's no short here. There's no short anywhere here. And again, I don't like playing the whole guess the up, even up here, even up 1,000, 2,000%. I don't like playing that. I don't like to play that game. I don't care how much better the odds are. I'd rather wait for the backside rotation, which we saw here. Backside rotation is really interesting on these plays because I had people on my long in my in my Discord long this right here because of this bidder holding. But a lot of times, these market makers on these backside plays will throw up big bids to squeeze the backside liquidity, and then they pull it, right? That's kind of like a classic backside move. Um, but yeah, if this pushed up to 30, I would have been more interested. I did see this bid get pulled, and this did end up being the top of the bounce, right? So yeah, that's just I can't believe these minutes. I feel like I talked for 6, 7 minutes, and the video is 20 minutes long. Anyways, um, this down only move creates an empty air pocket that it rotates through, but it is hard to guess where it's going to go. But obviously, if you look, it is currently down about, from this entry, it is currently down like 70%. So, maybe I should adjust my trading. But you're not going to catch them all, and chasing is not a good idea because you're going to pay for that in the future. I highly recommend just trying to get good averages. And if you don't have a good average, then forget about it. It's fine. You're not going to be in every trade, right? And at the same time, I lost like 20 cents, 25 cents on this short. This squeezed 400% from my entry. You know what I mean? Um, so it's not just about the trades you miss. It's not just about the profits you miss. It's also about the losses that you didn't suffer, right? Which is just as important. So, anyways, that's BMR. You guys have a good one. Information down below about the Discord. I'll see you later.